Okay. All right.
There you go. That it.
Yep.
That was pretty good. And you actually tapped into some different weapons from the Indian things, because I found the the same thing, but on the Astras I found the Brahmashira Astra. Have you ever heard of that
Oh
one?
yeah. That was on the list I was looking through. That was there's a whole lot of different Astras. I just, with the time I had to finish
Mm-hmm.
up tonight, I wrote the ones that were most relevant to
No,
the
it's
subject,
fine.
the
And if it's coming
Atlantean
from,
Lemurian War.
yeah, if it's coming from both of us, it's perfectly fine. And then like
Oh, okay.
the Brahma Dandra, did you hear about that one? The Brahma's rod.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
No, that one was, or is also known as the Brahmanda. It's a self-defense
Yeah, there was
weapon.
a there was a lot of different there was almost, like I said, there was almost like 100 different types of ostras. Now I will do another recording where, after I do a little bit more reading up on them, where I deep dive more into them. The one that releases torrential volumes of water was of especially
Yeah.
great interest. You know, when we talk about the great flood of that sunk Atlantis and Lemuria, and
Hmm.
then of course the Brahmastra creating the Great Fire, and you know the Agarthians telling Olaf Jensen and
Yeah.
the
You.
story about the nuclear war.
Mhm. Now,
I've heard yeah, sorry.
oh, sorry.
I've heard the idea about the bow and stuff before. I've also heard ideas about the Noah myth in Christianity being directly related to the flood of Atlantis,
Yeah.
um,
And
which could be an interesting sort of
yeah,
connotation. Sort of,
I've actually come across something here recently that I was checking out too. When it came to Judaic beliefs, there was a comment out of one of Robot's readings. It was the one I was talking about, where he was discussing the Russian Revolution, and it was a term. No, actually, this is one that I found. It was in this, and it was referring to the term. Here, I'll find it here in a second. The sons of Belial. Now, the sons of Belial was supposed to be reptilian Anunnaki, which I was wanting to check out, and I finally did the research on it, and I found out that the sons of Belial was actually a term used by was an old a Hebrew term that was used by the Jewish back during their time, which was the term for the worthless. So these were people who were worthless, the worthless people, and that was where that came from. So I did find that out, and then last night I was on Jaffe's, or I was commenting and listening to Jaffe talk to Robert Morningstar, and I noticed a lot of the stuff that he was talking about was like cultism with a religious aspect to it. So I did notice the correlation there after, right exactly after I watched the Jaffe show, where it was showing that about the worthless, or the worthless ones, or the worthless people, is what Belial means. So now we
which
could.
actually brings into which actually brings into an interesting concept about the Indian caste system.
Yeah, and see that's
Obviously,
yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it's going into. That's exactly what it's going into.
Mm.
And see, that's what I was telling you before we started getting into this. Is it's like this goes deeper than just aliens and UFOs and stuff like this. These are things that actually go back thousands of years. You know what I mean? And like
Mm.
the actual alien stories that freaking we're talking about here were written like 200-300 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
So relatively.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the amount of information I've uncovered as I'm going about this is kind of overwhelming. So, I mean, we could very easily wind up with 10 episodes just trying to cover one race of aliens alone. And then you could go into how it ties into all the other ones, which we've only began to scrape the surface of the surface. This is like the tip of the iceberg's tip that we're just talking about now.
Mm-hmm.
And look how detailed we're getting.
Yeah.
So it's
now you have you been able to listen to any of the audio I sent you from what I found on my notes?
I haven't yet. Like I said, I was finishing up these notes I just gave you before I got onto the mystery show, and then we did and I've been on here ever since on Jitsi. I want to go read them, but if I get off of Jitsi here, it'll screw me up, or listen to them.
Well,
I listened to some of the one you sent.
I'm cool with you not actually doing it, because to be honest with you, freaking you're coming up with stuff that actually doesn't go exactly with what I'm going with, so we're getting different content, you know what I'm saying? So in reality, that's actually helping both of us, because my research and your research is actually like creating more to the story. And it's like Robot, he freaking just out of nowhere he starts wanting to talk about freaking Helena Blavatsky and freaking Cook. So he's got information from Cook's voyage, but he did mess up, okay, because he mentioned Cook going to Antarctica, but he failed to realize he also did an expedition into the Himalayas looking for Shambhala.
Okay. Now, did Cook, by chance, did he know Olaf Jensen?
That I don't know.
Because it's interesting that, Cook was a sailor that went to the South Pole and found an entrance to Hollow Earth there, and then also in the Himalayas. And then we have Olaf Jensen, who supposedly accidentally sailed into an entrance to Earth's hollow inside in the North Pole. I just wondered, given that they were sailors, if they knew of each other or knew each other. So that's another interesting point.
Yeah.
But I like how all of our research comes from all these different angles, and then it converges at a lot of the same places.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, while I don't know exactly how I feel about the Hollow Earth and all that, there must be something to it because I mean, we all this. There's too much information on all of it that all seems to fit together. Like I was talking about, with just the ancient Hindu epics and the Astras I just talked about. All of it. There's too much information that all seems to tie together to the same places and stuff for there not to be something to it.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good stuff in there that I mean, if nothing else, it leads to a lot of stuff that's been said for thousands of years. You know what I mean? And
we're trying to bring it all together into one place and into one series where, people can even somebody who don't know nothing about it can listen to it and understand it in, you know, in a more comprehensive form.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anything like that's ever been done.
Yeah,
really.
they've done it, but even the ones who do it, they're kind of like falling into this fad. You know what I mean? Because like if you watch a lot of these videos on YouTube, they'll always start out with, you know, which I think is cool, but they'll start out with the Sumerians. It'll go there. Then all of a sudden they're talking about the freaking Canaanites, and they're talking about the freaking Egyptians, and then they'll go from then they'll jump from the Egyptians all the way over to South America, and then all of a sudden the Mayans and freaking the Aztecs and all these Indian tribes are connected to Egypt, and they don't actually like, and it's what I'm saying is it's a trend. It's like every single one of them does it, and then when they're burned out and they have no more material, they always fall back on, guess what, on the Naga and the freaking Hindu and the freaking all of them. Every single one of them in the end will talk about the Nagas and the Hindus and the religion. And there's even something right there that correlates, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you stop, you know, I mean, it all connects to that topic. So I think it's actually good that we're just cutting out all that crap, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, okay?
Yeah.
But I just don't want to be trendy, because there's even trendy ufology too, you know what I mean? And trendy paranormal.
Like ancient. So are you referring to like ancient aliens types, or?
Yeah. And
like Eric Von,
yeah.
And like Eric Von Daniken and Chariots of the Gods kind of stuff, and
yeah, and there's other ones too that aren't that famous, and they're all over YouTube. Like, I used to watch Viper TV, and
I've heard of.
I used to watch it religiously. I loved it because it was always talking about archaeology and stuff too, and they would always do that. They would go from frickin' the Sumerians to the Egyptians to South America, then over to the Hindus, and talk about the Vishnu and all that, you know. And
now, I mean, with the what was I about to say? Lost my train of thought. Brain fart. It was important though.
Yeah.
Promising it was important.
But
I'm
see,
promising.
the hollow earth theory too is something that a lot of people have misconceptions about too. Like, they think that, like, there's all these crazy people that believe the earth is hollow, and they don't understand. People have thought that the earth is hollow for thousands of years. Like,
it goes back.
It
goes back into a lot of the very ancient civilizations, and we don't know where they got those stories from exactly.
Right.
There has to be something to it as far back as it goes.
Well, I've actually found, like, even old Greek stories where they have stories of creatures coming out of mysterious cave systems.
Yep.
You know.
And the Hopi Indians too, in their creation story, they talk about how they emerged from caverns within the earth, which was that's another thing I'm going to touch on really in depth on another one of these recordings.
Now,
about the Hopi creation story, where they came out of the earth and they lived under there with another race of beings they called the ant people.
Yeah. And I've actually got them listed on the aliens list, so they are on there.
All the ant people?
Yeah, the ant people are on there. And there's also, with Egypt, okay, I've also got another human alien group that's supposed to be in the Gaza Strip from the Giza Plateau with the pyramids.
Okay.
So I've got that too.